Michael, given that we're only 3 weeks or inside that now from getting involved in another season of the box seat, I thought it was an opportune time for us to kick things off by previewing a pretty important meeting at Addington Raceway on Friday night.
Yeah, hi Greg. Big buzz for everybody to be back. Of course, Invercargill started on Thursday. It was only sort of 15 days away from racing, but it felt like a lot longer. I think a lot of people get pretty bored during lockdown. So I think a lot of harness racing people and even St Gallen's people who are in lockdown are really looking forward to late Friday afternoon. Cambridge are going to kick proceedings off, and they've got a nice little meeting. And good on Harness Racing New Zealand and the trainers working together to make that happen, because it wouldn't have happened unless we had the ability to transport those horses across the Auckland boundary. But the big dance, of course, is Addington. And the Cup seems a long way away, Greg, at the moment, but the road to the Cup starts on Friday night. And I'm not quite sure what to make of it, because the last time we saw the big names trialling together was a month ago, and it feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Michael. And given that they only went about a 2.8 mile rate in that trial that was won by AG's White Sox, of course, we're talking about the Allied Securities at Morris Holmes Vase, the 10th running of this race. And Michael, it's been a key lead-up race. It's always about the second race at Addington. The national handicap's normally before that. And congratulations on Addington for maintaining this race. And then next week they'll have the new Brighton Cup with Avon City Forward. But last year, Self Assured won this race and obviously went on to win the Cup. He's the only one that's won the race and then gone on and won the Cup. But a few of these horses have been in this race before. AG's White Sox been placed. Classy Brigades won the race back in 2019. I get what you're saying about really hard to take anything out of that trial and what's happened in the last month. We spoke to both of us, John Dunn, on Sunday on the new Trots Talk as part of SENZ, and he gave a nice push for Heisenberg. He said he'd probably been a lot better in training than and got a lot stronger than his 4-year-old years. So I'm almost prepared to have something on him at around the $10 mark. I did speak to Ricky May at the trials yesterday, and he was a little bit concerned about barrier 1 for AG's White Sox. He said he's a lot better, but he still has that trait that if he doesn't want to do things right, Michael, we can get it very wrong.
Yeah, two things there. Just on John Dunn, I had an update conversation with him on Thursday. He said they worked all the horses together on Wednesday, and he thinks Classy Brigade and Henry Hubert have caught up to where Heisenberg was a month ago. Heisenberg was sort of 2 weeks ago before the lockdowns when they last spun their wheels. Heisenberg, he thought, was the most advanced. He said he's got the feeling they've caught up, and with the barrier draws, he's leaning towards Classy Brigade. It's a little bit of a change there. I think the race will be won at the start. I think Classy Brigade's going to end up in front at some stage. And I think if he ends up in front with AG's White Sox stepping well from 1 and on his back, Greg, on what I saw at the trials, and considering both horses would have had similar prep since with a little bit of less work and then obviously the chance to work on the beach this week, I think AG's White Sox sits on Classy Brigade's back, he beats him. But I think more than likely AG's White Sox can't do that, because more than likely he has a little bit of a bobble away. Then Classy Brigade and the rest of the Dunn team can manipulate the race around him. They're not going to do him any favours. So I'm not saying Classy Brigade's a good thing, and the 3.5 is okay. But what we saw last year when we came back from lockdown, Greg, and even though it's a lot shorter lockdown this time, is the horses on the speed won so many races because the other horses aren't fit enough to come around them and beat them. If they were all in a perfectly straight line, getting exactly the same run, I would go AG's White Sox to win this race. I don't think that's going to happen, as much as you can tell with standing starts. Therefore, I'll go Classy Brigade. 3.5 is fair enough, considering the other two best horses in the race.
Yeah, of course, you got DiCaprio there, who was excellent in the Curragh Cup and has a new driver. Ricky May sticking with AG's White Sox, and therefore Sam Otley picks up the drive, around $10 for him. He's a very good beginner, Michael. He might get himself right in the fight early. So, yeah, and the other one is Heisenberg. And I think the $10, prior to you suggesting that John thought the other two had caught up, looked pretty juicy. And maybe he needs to get it absolutely right at the start too. But intriguing battle. The Allied Securities Morris Holmes Vase. We see the return of our best trotter, though. He wasn't going to come to the races, Michael. He was going to the trials, but John Dunn has decided to bring Sunday's Sun a race named after one of the great trotters of all time, one of your favourites, I know, and Basil Dean. And he might be slightly vulnerable, but the bookmakers don't think so. He's $1.60.
Well, I think he'll start shorter because I don't think Chief of Staff will start. He had a minor setback during the week. Nothing serious, but they're just wavering on scratching him. So by the time you watch this on Friday morning, peeps, he might be gone, in which case Sunday Sun starts $1.40. I think he just blasts across the field. I think the easiest way to give a good horse, or a great horse in this case, a good run, Greg, fresh up, is in a small field like this, go forward and lead. No one's going to attack you. So then he can jog around middle half and 65, one would presume, and sprint up the straight. He should really...
Did he give you the indication he thinks he's ready to do that?
Yep, he did. And he said, most importantly, this is the absolute key to Sunday Sun, said trotting very, very squarely in work. He's a bit fat, but trotting squarely. A bit fat Sunday Sun trotting squarely would be too good for these. He's just a multi-yanker. He didn't just beat good horses last year. He smashed them, and they were good horses. Majestic Man dominated in Australia. Bolt for Brilliance won the Jewels and is a fantastic horse. And Sunday Sun just beat them for fun. He's probably 5 lengths better than these horses, Greg, if Chief of Staff comes out, which I think he will. So I think he wins. I think I'm happy to multi him. And John Dunn also gave us a good push on Trot's Talk. Join us on Trot's Talk, SENZ on Sundays at 12 o'clock for It's a Moneymaker. Their 2-year-old juvenile debutante earlier in the card. So on flip of the coin betting in the Morris Homes, I'm more than happy to absolutely load up on Sunday Sun. I think his real odds are $1.20. And It's a Moneymaker. He gave me a big push for being able to handle barrier 2 and having the nous and the speed to use that. So I'm sort of structuring our bets around those. But good to see the TRB having the markets open Thursday lunchtime for the Open class races. That's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, it certainly is, Michael. A horse that's heading towards that grade at a rapid rate is Sugar Me. What have you made of him?
He's one of those horses, Greg, who looks a bit, what would you say, undeveloped in his gait, still immature. Like, clearly the ability's there and he's bred to be good, but sometimes he gets a bit choppy and a bit mixedy in the gait and a bit weak in front. I think he'll keep improving. I think he's like a lot of horses who have that level of ability. They'll get through very quickly to rating 90-ish. Then the question is, once they're at rating 90, can they rock and roll with the rating 100 horses who are a different breed of horse altogether? And more importantly, the rating 112s and the 115s and the AG's White Soxes and the Self Assureds. So I think that's why we lose so many horses offshore, Greg. There's a lot of horses who can get to rating 90, or if you gave them time, they could. And Sugar Me's one of those. Whether he gets to rating 100 is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, he's in race number 7. A horse I've spoken to Regan Todd about is a horse called Susie Rocks. Does have a big motor outside second row. Not too worried about that. Said work this week has been very good. So he has just been ticking her over and then give her a decent blad out on Wednesday. And he said, yep, bang on, ready to go. So happy to back her in race number 11. Just before we leave Addington Raceway, sad news during the week. The original Double D, I like the way Darren Williams described Dennis Nine. He was always immaculately dressed. His horses were beautifully presented. His father prepared, of course, the Mighty Lordship to win 2 of his cups. And then he won the cup himself as a trainer with the only three-legged pacer in Rob Allen. So certainly an icon in our sport, Michael.
Yeah, there's a lot of legendary names in Canterbury harness racing in particular. And Nine is one of those, alongside Barton Jones and De Philippi and some of the other names we have down there. It's always sad to see people like this past, Greg. They take, they gave you memories when you were a kid. When I was reading Flying Sulkies and Salute to Trotting, you were reading about these people and you get to meet them later in life. As you said, a real gentleman. Sad to hear of his passing, but those memories of those wonderful horses will never leave us. Just to won the harness racing front, Greg, of course, Cambridge also race on Friday. I think Steve Telfer's going to have a good night there. He's got a lot of armoury, Steve and Amanda Telfer. And I think they're taking horses down there. David Butcher has to jump on because Ben Butcher, like a lot of people, is stuck in Auckland. So I think David / Steve and Amanda are the ones to follow at Cambridge. All the odds will be available by the time you open this on trb.co.nz. Greg, if you had one bet for the weekend, if you were only allowed one bet, what would it be?
Yep, it'll be Susie Rocks for me, race 11 on Friday night.
I'll go. It's a money maker into Sunday Sun because I think Sunday Sun, the 20% or 30% on your dollar is just adding an extra price to the other horses because I think it'll just absolutely bolt in, Greg. So good to see harness racing back, mate. Everybody who's a harness racing fan, join us on SENZ for Trots Talk at noon on Friday. We'll have special guests. We'll preview the Sunday meeting and we'll review the return of harness racing for the week. Gregory, looking forward to that. And counting down to the box seat in a few weeks, things are starting to get serious.
Yeah, they are, Michael. So every Sunday with us, 12 to 1. And, of course, that box seat kicks off the 22nd of September. Looking forward to being part of that series once again. Good luck on the punt over the weekend.